It was a sunny morning, and the water in Abe the axolotl's tank shimmered like liquid gold. He stretched his pink gills, gave a big yawn, and swam up to the surface. Suddenly, zip! A sparkly yellow light flashed past the glass. "Infobug!" Abe grinned, waving. Infobug hovered with a swirl of magic dust.
Good morning, Abe. Are you ready for our next big adventure?
Abe nodded. "Where to?"
We're going to the airport,
said Infobug with a twinkle. Abe's eyes widened. "Wow! But I've never flown before."
Well, today's perfect,
said Infobug.
You're going to learn how everything works, from check-in to take-off.
With a gentle shimmer of magical sparkles, Infobug lifted Abe out of his tank. Wearing his trusty blue shorts, Abe floated beside his friend as they zipped off over the hills and houses towards the airport. They arrived at the airport entrance, where glass doors slid open and crowds bustled in every direction. "Whoa!" Abe said. "This place is huge."
Airports are like cities for travellers,
Infobug said.
Everyone's here to go somewhere by plane.
Near the entrance were long rows of desks, each with signs above them, and people lining up.
This is the check-in area,
explained the Infobug.
People come here to get their boarding passes and hand over their suitcases.
They watched as a family gave their bags to an airline worker.
The airline worker is printing bag tags,
said Infobug.
Those help the airport send the bags to the right plane.
The suitcases rolled away on a moving belt. "Where did they go?" Abe asked.
Let's follow one and see.
In a blink, Infobug took them underground, where conveyor belts twisted and turned like roller coasters.
Welcome to the baggage handling system,
Infobug said.
All the checked luggage travels through here.
Each suitcase zoomed past scanners and machines.
They are being scanned and sorted,
said Infobug.
Computers read the tag and send each one to the correct flight.
Abe giggled as a suitcase spun around a corner. "It's like a ride for bags," he said. Back upstairs, Infobug led Abe to a wide hallway.
Now people go through security,
Infobug explained.
That's where staff check to make sure everything's safe before boarding a plane.
Beyond security was a wonderful world of shops, restaurants, and cozy seating areas.
Welcome to Duty Free,
Infobug said. Abe's eyes sparkled. So much candy and sunglasses and... Are those model aeroplanes?
Yep.
Infobug smiled.
Since they're travelling internationally, shoppers can buy some things without paying local taxes. That's what duty-free means.
Abe picked up a tiny plush suitcase and smiled. "Souvenirs," he said.
Come on!
Infobug buzzed.
Let's check the flight board.
Abe looked up at a huge screen showing rows of flights, destinations, and gate numbers. "Flight 302 to Sunshine Bay, Gate 5, on time," Abe read aloud.
Every flight gets a gate,
Infobug explained.
It's like your personal doorway to the plane.
Abe nodded. "Let's go and find ours," he said. Gate 5 had big windows with a clear view of the runway. Abe found a seat and looked out of the window. "Look at all those planes!"
And all those tiny trucks,
Infobug said.
That area outside is called the apron or ramp.
They saw a fuel truck filling up a plane's tank. They saw a catering truck loading meals onto a plane. They saw a luggage cart with lots of little trailers bringing bags from underground. They saw a pushback tug ready to move the plane away from the gate. "It's like a busy beehive," Abe whispered.
Exactly!
Infobug nodded.
It takes a whole team to prepare just one flight.
Abe noticed through the window a tall glass tower stood in the distance.
That's the air traffic control tower.
Infobug said.
Let's fly up and take a peek.
With a swoosh, they zipped up to the top. Inside, they saw people with headsets looking at big screens filled with dots and blinking lines.
These are air traffic controllers,
said Infobug.
They guide every plane taking off, landing, or flying through the air.
A controller spoke into a radio. "Flight 302 cleared for pushback. Taxi to runway 4. "That's our flight," Abe whispered. Controllers used radar to track planes and give pilots instructions, like traffic lights in the sky. "It's like a secret command center," said Abe in awe. Back at the gate, the screen now blinked. "Flight 302 now boarding."
Let's go!
Infobug buzzed. They joined the passengers and walked down the jet bridge, a tunnel that connected the terminal to the aeroplane. Inside, Abe found a window seat and buckled in. Infobug hovered by the tray table. Out the window, they watched the final bags being loaded and the door closing.
Everyone's ready,
said Infobug. The plane slowly taxied away from the gate, past other planes, following yellow lines painted on the ground.
Those are taxiways,
said Infobug.
They guide the plane to the runway for takeoff.
Soon the plane stopped at the end of a long, wide strip of pavement. The engines roared.
Hold on,
said Infobug. And with a whoosh, the plane sped down the runway and lifted into the sky. Clouds swirled past the window. The ground grew smaller. The airport looked like a tiny toy town. "We're flying!" Abe shouted.
Ha-ha! You did it!
said Infobug, laughing. As the plane leveled off and the seatbelt sign blinked off, Abe leaned back with a big smile. "Airports are amazing," he said. "So many people, machines, and steps working together." Infobug nodded.
And now you know how it all works, from the check-in desk to the control tower.
Abe looked out at the clouds in amazement. Next, the flight attendant gave them their dinner so that they were well fed for the long flight ahead. Abe had some potato and vegetables. Infobug said,
Let's get settled for the journey.
"Next stop, Sunshine Bay," said Abe. And with that, they soared off toward a sunny holiday, full of new adventures.
Abe's Adventures!
Abe the axolotl woke up and opened his eyes. He stretched his tiny arms, yawned a bubbly yawn, and looked around. The room was still and quiet, filled with the soft morning light shining through the curtains. "Time to start the day," Abe said with a wiggle. With a little splash, he climbed out of his tank and dropped onto the desk in the bedroom. Abe is no ordinary axolotl. He has special powers that let him explore the world outside his watery home. He shook himself off and tiptoed across the desk. "I need my Infobug friend," Abe whispered excitedly. He leaned out of the window and called for his friend. "Infobug, Infobug, where are you?" After a few seconds, Infobug appeared from behind a tree.
Good morning, Abe.
Buzzed the Infobug, spinning in a circle.
What are we learning about today?
Abe grinned. I want to learn how to grow my own vegetables,
Oh, fantastic idea.
said the Infobug.
Let's head to the garden allotment.
So off they went, Abe with his blue shorts and the Infobug buzzing ahead. The garden allotment was right down the path. It was a magical place where neighbours grew all kinds of plants and vegetables. There were rows and rows of leafy greens, tall stalks and colourful patches of soil. Abe looked around, wide-eyed. Whoa! There are so many kinds of plants! The Infobug beeped happily.
Let's take a veggie tour,
He said. They walked over to the first patch. Big, bushy plants with red dots were growing in the sunshine.
These are tomatoes.
The Infobug explained.
They love the sun and need lots of water. You can eat them in salads or sandwiches or even make some sauce.
Abe nodded seriously. Tomatoes, check. Next, they saw long orange shapes poking out of the soil. Carrots, shouted Abe, recognizing them. I love crunchy carrots,
Exactly.
said the Infobug.
Carrots grow in the ground. Their green tops show you where they're hiding.
They moved onto a big patch of leafy green plants,
These are lettuce.
said the Infobug.
There are many kinds. Some are curly, some are soft, and some are great for making sandwiches extra crunchy.
I'm definitely planting some of that, said Abe, logging the vegetables in his memory. They passed rows of tall green stalks with leaves reaching for the sky,
Sweet corn.
said the Infobug.
The yellow part grows inside those husks at the top. They take a while to grow, but taste delicious when they're ready.
Abe imagined crunching on corn on the cob. Yummy! They saw potatoes hiding in the soil, peas climbing up tall sticks, and pumpkins growing in big round patches like orange balloons. There are so many, Abe said. How do I know when they're ready to pick?
Good question.
Said the Infobug.
Tomatoes turn bright red, carrots and potatoes get big underground, peas feel fat in their pods, and pumpkins, well, they look like giant round moons when they're ready.
Abe giggled. Giant moons. Got it. Abe and the Infobug stopped to talk to a gardener, Mr. Jenkins, who was watering his cabbages. Hello there, said Mr. Jenkins kindly. First time at the allotment? Abe nodded. I want to grow vegetables, but I live in a tank. Mr. Jenkins laughed. Well, you can grow some plants in little pots on a sunny windowsill or in your bedroom. Tomatoes, lettuce, or even herbs like basil. Abe's eyes lit up. That's perfect. I'm going to make a tiny garden in my bedroom. After a fun morning, learning and exploring, Abe and the Infobug waved goodbye and headed home. The afternoon sun was just beginning to set. Back in the bedroom, Abe got out some pots and some soil and set them all up. He gently tipped some soil into the pots, added some seeds, and then watered them. There you go, little ones, he said. The Infobug looked excited and said goodbye to Abe before flying off home for his tea. Abe climbed back into his tank. What a day, he said, floating on his back. Tomatoes, carrots, pumpkins, and even potatoes. Abe gave a big yawn, snuggled next to his castle, and whispered, Tomorrow I will plant some more seeds. And with that he drifted off to sleep, dreaming of leafy greens, big orange pumpkins, and the tiniest garden in the world.
Abe's Adventures!
It was a bright sunny morning. Birds were chirping and Abe the axolotl was sitting next to his tank with a sad look on his face.
Morning, Abe.
Buzzed the infobug, flying through the window.
Why the long face? You look like someone took your last pancake.
Abe rubbed his cheek. My tooth hurts. I was chewing some grub and something felt ouchy. The infobug zipped in close and looked at Abe's face.
Have you been brushing your teeth every day?
Abe blinked. Mostly. Well, kind of. I mean, okay, sometimes I forget. The infobug raised an eyebrow.
Abe, brushing your teeth isn't just for grown-ups or when you remember. It keeps your mouth clean and your teeth strong. Sounds like you might have a cavity.
A cavity? Abe squeaked. That sounds serious.
It's not too bad if we take care of it now,
said the infobug.
We need to see a dentist.
Abe's guild twitched nervously. I've never been to a real dentist. What if it's scary? What if they poke me with giant tools? The infobug gave him a gentle pat on the head.
Dentists are tooth superheroes. Trust me, I know a great one. Let's go!
Abe got up and followed the infobug down the street. They passed the bakery, the library, and finally came to a cheerful little building with a big sign on the front that read, Bright Smiles Dental Clinic. Inside, everything was clean and cozy. There were picture books, colourful chairs, and even a tiny aquarium in the corner. A smiling lady at the desk greeted them. Abe and infobug walked over to the reception desk. Hello, you must be Abe, she said. Dr. Mola will see you soon. Abe sat down next to infobug for comfort. I don't know about this, he whispered.
You've got this,
the infobug whispered back.
and I'll be right here the whole time.
Soon, a friendly woman in a white coat came out and waved. Hi, Abe. I'm Dr. Mola. Ready to check out that tooth? Abe took a deep breath and nodded. Dr. Mola led Abe into a bright room with a comfy chair and cool machines. There were fun posters on the wall about brushing, flossing, and eating healthy snacks. Abe sat in the chair and tilted back as Dr. Mola put on some gloves and smiled. Let's take a peek, she said gently. Open wide. She used a little mirror and a tiny tool to look around Abe's mouth. Just a small cavity on one of your back teeth, she said. Nothing to worry about, but we'll clean it up and fix it with a special filling. Abe's eyes widened. Will it hurt? Not at all, she said kindly. You might feel a tickle or a wiggle, but I'll let you know everything I'm doing. As she worked, the infobug hovered nearby, giving Abe a tiny thumbs up. Dr. Mola was quick and gentle, and before long she was done. All finished, she said. You were so brave, Abe. Abe sat up and touched his cheek. It doesn't hurt anymore. That was actually kind of cool. Afterward, Dr. Mola gave Abe a special sticker and a shiny new toothbrush. Remember to brush every morning and night, and floss too, she said. And come visit me every 6 months so we can keep those teeth sparkling. I will, said Abe proudly. I didn't know the dentist could be so nice. Outside the clinic, Abe and the infobug strolled down the sidewalk, chatting happily. I'm glad we went, Abe said. No more skipping brushing for me. The infobug nodded.
You've got one smile, Abe. You've got to take care of it.
That night, Abe stood at the bathroom sink, brushing in little circles, just like Dr. Mola showed him. He spit, rinsed, and looked at his reflection in the mirror. My teeth feel amazing, he said with a grin. The infobug buzzed nearby.
2 minutes, twice a day, every day.
Abe laughed. Got it, Coach Bug. And with clean teeth and a happy heart, Abe climbed into his tank, proud of his bright, healthy smile. Remember, children, always brush your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes every day. Goodbye.
Abe's Adventures!
Sunlight danced across the bedroom floor as Abe the axolotl blinked to open his shiny blue eyes. He yawned a bubbly yawn and stretched his pink gills with a squiggle.
Rise and shine!
Came a cheerful voice. A trail of sparkles zipped past the tank. It was Infobug, glowing yellow and buzzing with excitement.
I've got a big surprise today,
said Infobug. Abe perked up. Is it breakfast? Wait, no. Is it second breakfast?
Even better!
Infobug grinned.
We're going to the fire station!
Abe's eyes lit up. Whoa! With fire trucks and firefighters and sirens and hoses?
All of that and more,
said Infobug.
Let's go!
A few minutes later, Abe was out of his tank, wearing his trusty blue shorts and flying with Infobug in a cloud of magic dust. Together they flew over houses and fields and arrived at the town's fire station. It was a tall red building with wide doors and shiny fire trucks parked outside. "Hello," said a friendly voice. A firefighter stepped forward, wearing a bright yellow jacket with shiny silver stripes. "I'm Firefighter Lena. Welcome to the station." Abe grinned. "Hi, I'm Abe, and this is my friend Infobug. We came to learn everything about the fire brigade." Firefighter Lena laughed. "You've come to the right place." They walked over to a big red fire engine with ladders stacked on top and shiny hoses rolled up on the sides. "This is our main truck," said Lena. "We use it to get to emergencies." "It's huge," Abe said, running his fingers along the metal side.
It carries water, hoses, tools, and even a big ladder that stretches way up high, in case someone's stuck in a tall building,
said Infobug. "What's that sound when it zooms by?" asked Abe.
That's the siren,
Infobug explained.
It lets cars know to move out of the way.
Lena nodded. "And the lights flash red so everyone can see us coming." Next, they entered a room filled with equipment, helmets, boots, axes, and big rolled-up hoses. Firefighter Lena picked up a heavy coat. "This is my turnout gear. It protects me from heat and smoke. It's fire-resistant." Abe tried on a firefighter helmet. "It's heavy," he said. "That's because it's tough," said Lena. "We wear special gloves too and carry air tanks so we can breathe in smoky places." "Like scuba diving," Abe said.
Exactly,
said Infobug.
except instead of swimming, they're crawling through buildings to rescue people and pets.
Abe thought firefighters only put out fires, but Lena explained there was so much more. "We respond to car accidents. We help during floods and storms. And even rescue cats stuck in trees." "You do all of that?" Abe asked, amazed. "We also teach fire safety, visit schools, and check that they have smoke alarms that work," Lena added. Infobug glowed.
Smoke alarms help people know when there's smoke, so they can get out fast.
Abe nodded. "We have one at home. It makes a super loud beep,"
That's right.
said Infobug. Next, they visited the training room, a big open space with ladders, ropes, and a pretend wall to climb.
We practice every day,
said firefighter Lena.
so we stay strong, fast and ready.
Abe looked up at the climbing wall. That's a long way up, he said. Lena smiled.
Don't worry, we use harnesses and always train safely.
Firefighters are kind of like superheroes, Abe whispered to Infobug.
They're real-life heroes.
Infobug agreed. Suddenly, a loud beep filled the room. Beep, beep, beep. What's that? Abe asked, jumping.
It's our emergency drill,
Said Lena.
we practice responding quickly, just like in a real emergency.
The other firefighters went to their lockers, put on their gear in seconds, and climbed into the engines. That was so fast, Abe said.
We always stay ready,
Said Lena.
because emergencies can happen any time.
Outside, Abe watched as the firefighters put out a controlled fire so that they could practice for the real thing.
This is so that the firefighters can learn how to use the hoses and put the fire out.
Said Infobug. Before they left, firefighter Lena sat down with Abe and Infobug to share some important tips. She gave the list to Infobug to read out.
Okay, Abe, here's your fire safety checklist. Check your smoke alarms once a month. Have a fire escape plan at home and practice it. Never play with matches or lighters. If there's smoke, stay low and crawl under it. If your clothes catch fire, stop, drop and roll.
Abe practiced the moves on the floor. Stop, drop, roll,
You've got it.
said Infobug. As the sun began to set, Abe and Infobug waved goodbye to the firefighters. Thank you for everything, said Abe. You do so much more than I ever knew.
Come back any time.
Said Lena.
You're honorary firefighters now.
Abe beamed. I'll go home and teach everyone about fire safety. Infobug twirled.
Mission complete.
Abe and Infobug flew back home with some of Infobug's sparkly magic dust. Later that evening, Abe floated in his tank, his gills swaying gently. I liked climbing the wall, he said.
And the sirens.
Said Infobug. But my favorite part, Abe added, was learning how much firefighters help people.
Same.
Said Infobug, glowing softly.
Real heroes wear helmets.
They both smiled, safe and cozy, dreaming of red trucks and flashing lights.
Abe's Adventures!
One fine morning, the sunlight peeked through the bedroom window and shimmered across Abe's tank. Tiny bubbles drifted up from his castle, and the green plants swayed in the gentle current. Abe stretched, yawned a big bubbly yawn, and blinked his shiny blue eyes. Morning already, he mumbled. Just then, a gentle sparkle zipped past the glass. It was Infobug, glowing yellow and cheerful as ever, leaving a trail of glittery dust.
Good morning, Sleepy Gills.
Said Infobug.
Do you want to go on an adventure?
Abe perked up. Always. Where are we going?
To the garden pond.
Said Infobug, buzzing excitedly.
It's springtime, and something amazing is happening there.
With a splash and a wiggle, Abe leapt out of his tank and followed Infobug out the door. The garden was alive with sunshine and buzzing bees. Birds chirped in the trees and flowers danced in the breeze. Abe followed the sparkling trail of Infobug down the stone path to the pond near the edge of the yard.
There it is,
said Infobug, hovering over the water.
See those jelly-like blobs floating near the surface?
Abe leaned closer. Whoa, What are those? He said.
That's frog spawn,
Said Infobug proudly.
It's where new frogs begin. Each jelly ball has a tiny black dot inside. That's a baby frog in the making.
Frogs' eggs, said Abe, eyes wide. That's wild.
Yep,
Infobug nodded.
in just a few days, those little dots will wiggle and squirm out of their jelly, then they become tadpoles.
As they sat on a big flat rock near the edge, Abe noticed tiny black shapes zipping through the water. Are those tadpoles? He asked.
Exactly,
Said Infobug.
tadpoles hatch from the frog spawn and live underwater. They breathe through gills, just like you used to when you were a baby axolotl.
Abe laughed. Hey, I still have gills.
Oh yeah, you're just extra cool like that.
Infobug grinned.
Tadpoles mostly eat algae and little bits of pond plants. They grow fast, and look, some of them are starting to change.
Abe squinted. That one has tiny legs, he said.
That's right.
Said Infobug.
Tadpoles grow back legs first, then front legs. Their tails start to shrink, and they begin to look more like frogs.
That's like magic, Abe gasped.
It's called metamorphosis,
Said Infobug.
a big word for a big change.
As the sun rose higher, Abe and Infobug watched a little green frog leap from a lily pad with a cheerful spring.
Some of those tadpoles are now froglets.
Said Infobug.
They can live on land and in water.
They look so different from the eggs we saw, Abe said. Now they have tiny legs, lungs, and no tails.
Exactly.
Said Infobug.
And when they're fully grown frogs, they love hopping around the garden, eating bugs and keeping the pond healthy.
So frogs help the garden too? Asked Abe.
They sure do.
Said the Infobug.
They eat pests, keep the water clean, and even help scientists learn about the environment.
Abe smiled. Frogs are super helpful and super cool,
They really are.
said Infobug, doing a loop-de-loop in the air.
From eggs to tadpoles to hopping frogs, a whole life in stages.
After one more look at the pond, Abe stood up and waved goodbye to the frogs as the sun started to set. Thanks, Infobug, he said. That was the raddest thing I've seen in ages. They both giggled. Back in his tank, Abe floated near his castle, thinking about frog spawn and froglets. I might live in a tank, he said, but the garden's got a lot of stories too. Infobug twinkled beside him.
And there are plenty more where that came from. See you tomorrow, Abe.
Abe's Adventures!
It had just rained in Abe the Axolotl's garden, and the world smelled fresh and sparkly. Abe stood on the soft mossy path, wiggling his pink gills and adjusting his blue shorts. Raindrops still clung to the leaves and puddles glistened all around him. The sky was beginning to clear and a golden beam of sunlight peeked out from behind a cloud. Whoa! Abe blinked his shiny blue eyes. What's that in the sky? A rainbow stretched across the sky like a giant colourful smile. It shimmered in 7 glowing stripes: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Abe's mouth dropped open in awe. It's like the sky painted itself. Just then, a soft buzzing sound came from behind a nearby tree. Abe turned his head just in time to see the Infobug with his sparkly wings. Infobug, Abe said, bouncing up and down with excitement.
Hi, Abe.
Said Infobug. I have a big question, said Abe. What is a rainbow, and how did it get up there? Infobug did a happy loop in the air.
Excellent question. Come sit with me in the grass and I'll tell you everything.
Abe and Infobug sat under the tree, looking up at the beautiful arch in the sky.
First,
Infobug said,
we need 3 things to make a rainbow. Sunlight, water, and you, the observer.
Abe tilted his head. I see 2 of those things right now. The sun is out, and it just rained.
Exactly.
The Infobug nodded.
So here's what happens. After it rains, tiny water droplets are still floating in the air, even if we can't see them.
Abe leaned closer, listening carefully.
When the sunlight shines into one of those little droplets, something magical happens. The light bends, like it's turning around a corner.
Light can bend? Abe asked with wide eyes.
It sure can. That's called refraction,
said Infobug, buzzing a little figure of 8.
As light goes into the droplets, it bends. Then it bounces off the back of the droplet and comes out the other side. But it doesn't come out the same,
Infobug added with a twirl.
The light splits into all its different colours.
Abe's jaw dropped. Wait, sunlight has colours in it?
Yep.
Infobug beamed.
Even though sunlight looks white or yellow, it's actually made of all the colours of the rainbow.
Whoa! Abe wiggled his tail. So when light goes into the water droplet, it bounces around and, pow! It comes out in pieces.
Haha, that's right.
Infobug laughed.
Each droplet sends out little bursts of colour. And when millions of droplets do it all at once, all in the same direction, your eyes see a big, beautiful rainbow in the sky.
Abe flopped happily onto his back. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. Infobug landed next to him.
Want to know a bonus fact?
Always, said Abe.
The order of the colours in a rainbow never changes. It always goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
Just then, the clouds drifted apart a little more, and the rainbow grew even brighter. Look at it now, Abe said, sitting up. It's like nature's party hat.
Rainbows are like nature's smile,
Infobug agreed.
They're a perfect mix of science and wonder.
Abe stood proudly. Next time someone asks me what a rainbow is, I'll be ready. Infobug did a loop in celebration.
That's what I like to hear.
The rainbow slowly began to fade as the sun rose higher in the sky. Will it come back? Abe asked.
It might, as long as there's sunlight and little water droplets in the air,
said Infobug.
But every rainbow is a little different, just like every adventure.
Abe grinned. Thanks, Infobug. That was the best surprise lesson ever. Infobug fluttered up into the sky.
Happy to help, Abe. I'll see you next time you've got a big question.
And with a final buzz, Infobug zipped away behind a cloud, leaving Abe smiling, eyes sparkling like the sunlight through a raindrop. If you enjoyed this little story, please like and subscribe as it helps us to make more. Ta-ta for now.
Abe's Adventures!
Abe the axolotl lived in a big glass tank with soft sand, swaying plants, and a little castle that bubbled. One sunny morning, Abe opened his big blue eyes after a night's sleep. His pink gills wiggled as he yawned. "Good morning, world," he said, grinning a big grin. Abe climbed out of his tank and sat on the grass in the garden. The sky was bright blue and the air smelled fresh. Abe was no ordinary axolotl. He was a magic axolotl that could breathe out of water for a short while, perfect for an adventure. Suddenly, he heard a buzzing sound. Zzz. "Infobug!" Abe shouted with a grin. Down from the sky flew a little yellow bug with 4 shiny wings. His rounded body sparkled, and his eyes were kind and bright.
Hi, Abe.
He said.
Are you ready to learn something new today?
Abe nodded fast. Yes, please. What are we learning today?
Today, we're learning about recycling,
Said the infobug. Recycle what now? Abe sounded confused.
Recycling!
Said the infobug again.
It means taking things we don't need anymore, like empty bottles or old boxes, and turning them into new things instead of throwing them away.
Abe's eyes got bigger. Like magic, he said.
Almost.
The infobug giggled.
Come on, I'll show you.
The infobug sprinkled sparkly dust on Abe's head, and this enabled him to fly. And with a whoosh, suddenly they were flying high above the trees and houses. They flew down and saw a yellow recycling truck picking up the recycling bins.
These bins are where you put all your used recycling, like tins, glass bottles, and plastics,
said the infobug.
The trucks pick up the bins and take the recycling away to be processed.
Wow, said Abe. That's so cool. They flew off again and landed in front of a large building with colourful bins and noisy machines.
This is a recycling centre,
said the infobug.
Let's go inside and have a look.
And so they went in, and Abe looked all around. There were bottles, cans, boxes, and paper everywhere. Workers wore gloves and helmets. Machines made loud whirs and clunks.
First, everything is sorted,
said the infobug. Abe watched as bottles went in one bin, paper went in another, and cans clinked into a third.
They sort the recycling into types: plastic, paper, metal, and glass,
he explained. Abe clapped with excitement. It's like sorting my building blocks at home, he said.
Exactly,
said the infobug.
Next, everything gets cleaned.
Abe watched as plastic bottles went tumbling through a big washer. Soapy bubbles flew everywhere. Why do they clean it? Abe asked.
Because food or sticky stuff can ruin the recycling,
said the infobug.
It's important to rinse things before putting them in the bin.
Abe nodded. Got it. Rinse it first, he said.
Then,
said the infobug,
the plastic is melted down and turned into tiny little pellets, like tiny little beads.
Abe watched as the bottles went into a hot machine and came out the other side as little dots.
Those plastic beads can be used to make new things, like toys or even park benches.
Abe gasped. A juice bottle could become a bench?
Yes,
said the infobug.
And metal cans, they get melted into flat sheets and made into new cans or bike parts or anything made of metal.
What about paper? Abe asked.
Paper and cardboard are shredded, mixed with water and made into a mushy pulp. Then it's flattened, dried and rolled into new paper,
explained the infobug. Abe giggled. So my cereal box could become a notebook.
You bet,
said the infobug.
Even glass jars are crushed, melted and shaped into brand new jars or bottles. Recycling helps us use less new stuff from the earth.
Abe looked amazed. So recycling saves energy and helps the planet,
Yes,
the infobug said with a proud smile.
it keeps trash and rubbish out of the oceans and landfills. And it gives old things a brand new life.
They flew outside again, where a row of colour-coded bins stood in the sun,
These are recycling bins.
the infobug said.
Each one is for a different type of item.
I see, said Abe. The blue bin is for paper and cardboard. The green bin is for glass bottles and jars. The yellow bin is for plastics. And the red bin is for metal cans,
That's right.
said the infobug. Abe looked closely. So I have to put each thing in the right bin.
Exactly. And make sure it's clean and dry. That helps the workers and machines do their job.
And with a whoosh, the infobug sprinkled his sparkles again, and soon they were flying back home. As they landed in the garden, Abe spotted something on the grass. Look, someone left a juice box, he said. He picked it up, looked for the recycling symbol with 3 arrows, and grinned. This can go in the yellow bin, he said. He dropped it in and turned to the infobug. I'm going to start recycling every day. The infobug buzzed with joy.
You're a recycling hero now, Abe.
And so, that afternoon, Abe tucked back into his cozy tank. He said goodbye to the infobug and whispered to himself, sort it, clean it, recycle it. And with that, he closed his eyes, dreaming of spinning machines, clean oceans, and a cleaner world.
Abe's Adventures!
Early one sunny morning, Abe the axolotl blinked open his eyes and stretched his little arms. Sunlight streamed through the glass of his tank, casting sparkly ripples across the water. His pink gills fluttered with excitement. Today felt like an adventure kind of day. Just then, a tiny yellow blur zipped past the tank. Zip! It looped back and tapped on the glass.
Abe, wakey wakey! We've got something awesome to explore.
Chirped the infobug, hovering in the air with his shiny wings buzzing. Abe flipped his tail and swam up to the surface. Infobug, what's going on? He said. Did you find treasure or a secret cave?
Even cooler.
Infobug grinned.
We're going to learn about renewable energy.
Abe blinked and looked confused. Renewal what now?
Come on, I'll show you.
Infobug said, tapping his tiny antenna. Abe climbed out of his tank. He is a special axolotl that can breathe out of water, so that's just great for adventures. Infobug took Abe outside and sprinkled some magic dust onto him, which enabled him to fly. They zoomed through the sky. They flew over forests and fields. It was amazing, and Abe had never felt so free. Soon they landed on a breezy hilltop dotted with giant white windmills.
These are called wind turbines.
Explained the infobug.
They use the wind to spin those big blades. And when the blades spin, they power a generator inside that creates electricity.
Abe stared up, eyes wide. You mean they make energy just from the wind? That's amazing, he said. What if the wind stops, though?
Well,
Said the infobug.
sometimes it does, which is why we have other kinds of renewable energy too. Come on.
Abe and the infobug took off again. Next, they landed in a sunny field filled with sparkling solar panels. the infobug said excitedly.
These collect sunlight and turn it into electricity. The sun shines on the panels, and inside, tiny solar cells turn that sunlight into power.
Abe squinted up at the sun. So we can get energy from the wind and the sun? That's super cool. Do they hurt the planet? The infobug did a loop-the-loop and said,
Nope, that's what makes renewable energy so special. It's clean and doesn't pollute like burning coal or gas.
Abe's gills wiggled with excitement. What else is there? What if it's night-time and there's no wind?
Great question,
Infobug said as he zipped ahead, and they flew to a river where water rushed past a hydro power plant.
This is hydropower,
Infobug said.
Moving water turns turbines, kind of like the windmills, but with flowing rivers instead of air.
Abe giggled. It's like a giant water slide that makes energy. They stood on the enormous water channel, watching the water gush by. On their journey, they also stopped at a geothermal power station where hot steam from deep underground was being used to turn turbines and make electricity. Even the Earth itself can make energy, Abe said in wonder. Infobug nodded.
Yep, the Earth's heat is always there, deep below the surface.
Abe did a little happy dance. There are so many ways to help the planet, he said. Their final visit was to a biomass power plant where organic materials like wood chip, logs and pellets are used to create energy too. Infobug explained.
These power plants use natural things to burn, creating heat which makes steam to drive more turbines.
Abe was amazed. This is so much fun to learn about, he said. As the sun began to dip, they flew back towards home, as it was nearly Abe's bedtime. When home, he climbed back into his tank with a splash. Thanks for the adventure, Infobug. I learned so much today. Infobug landed next to the tank, glowing softly.
Me too, Abe. And guess what? Every time we use renewable energy, we help keep the Earth clean and happy.
Abe agreed. Maybe someday I can help build a windmill or invent something new. Infobug buzzed in delight.
You never know. Big changes can start with small ideas.
Abe smiled sleepily. Maybe tomorrow we can go on another adventure. As Abe drifted off to sleep, his dreams were filled with windmills spinning in the sky, sunbeams powering bright cities, and the quiet rush of rivers turning wheels of light. Good night.
Abe's Adventures!
It was a quiet morning in Abe the axolotl's bedroom. Sunshine streamed through the window, casting golden ripples across his tank. Abe stretched his pink, soft gills and yawned. The little castle bubbled gently beside him, and his plants swayed with the flow. He climbed out of his tank and sat in the garden. Then a familiar sparkle caught his eye. It was Infobug. Abe's tiny glowing yellow friend with 4 delicate wings and a trail of magic dust. He hovered over, twirling in the air like a floating firefly.
Abe,
Infobug called in his soft, kind voice.
are you ready for another adventure?
Abe's eyes lit up in excitement. Where are we going today? He said. Infobug spun in a little circle.
Today, you're going to learn something very important. How to cross the road safely.
Abe blinked. Cross the road? But I've never even been on a road.
That's That's why I'm here to help.
Infobug said with a smile.
Grab your shorts and let's go.
With a sprinkle of magic dust, Abe and the Infobug took off over the house and then landed in the street. They walked past gardens, fences, and birds hopping along the grass. Abe's eyes were wide. Everything seemed so big out here. Soon they came to a street, not too busy, but with the occasional car humming past. A yellow recycling truck rumbled by, beeping cheerfully as it stopped to collect bins. Abe stopped at the edge of the sidewalk and peered across. "So, how do we cross?" he said.
Great question,
said Infobug, who hovered just above his shoulder.
Before we cross any road, there are some very important rules. These rules are stop, look, and listen. First, we always stop.
Abe froze. Like this?
Perfect.
Infobug nodded.
Now we look and listen. Look left,
Abe turned his head.
then right, and left again.
Abe looked carefully in both directions, his big blue eyes scanning for any cars, bikes, or buses.
Did you hear anything?
Infobug asked. Abe listened. A bird chirped, a leaf rustled, but no cars. "Nope," he said.
Good.
Said the Infobug.
That's step 2. Listen for engines or wheels. Now step 3. Only cross at a safe place, like a zebra crossing or traffic lights.
Abe pointed with his finger. "There's a zebra crossing just there,"
Great spotting!
said Infobug. They walked over to the black and white strips on the road.
Now,
Infobug said.
stand right at the edge. We will wait until all the cars have stopped. Make eye contact with the drivers if you can.
Abe smiled at a small red car. The driver smiled back and then came to a stop.
They've seen us.
Said the Infobug.
Now it's safe. Let's cross, but never ever run.
Abe walked slowly across the crossing, Infobug flying beside him. "Wow," Abe whispered. "I'm really doing it." When they reached the other side, Abe turned around and looked at the road with pride. "That wasn't so scary,"
You did amazing.
Infobug beamed.
You stopped, you looked, you listened, and you only crossed when it was safe.
Abe was so happy with himself that he gave the Infobug a squishy little high five. "What happens if there's no zebra crossing?" Abe asked. The Infobug answered.
Then you find a safe, clear place where you can see in both directions and where drivers can see you. And never cross between parked cars or behind bushes.
Abe nodded. "Always where I can see and be seen," he said.
Exactly!
Said the Infobug. They continued their walk through the neighborhood. At one point, they came to a busy road with traffic lights. Abe watched how the red man on the signal turned green, and everyone began to cross together. Infobug hovered near the light.
At crossings like this, we wait until the green signal shows. Then we walk quickly but safely.
Abe practiced again, stopping, looking, listening, and then crossing with care. After a while, they looped around the neighborhood and came back to Abe's garden. The adventure had been fun and full of learning. Back in his room, Abe settled into his tank with a smile. The water was cool and calm, and the little castle bubbled beside him as usual. Infobug landed on the desk.
I'm proud of you, Abe. You were careful, clever, and kind.
Abe gave a sleepy grin. "Thanks, Infobug. I'll always stop, look, and listen when I'm crossing the road. Road safety is serious, even for axolotls. And as the sun dipped lower in the sky, Abe relaxed by his castle in the corner of the tank. Outside the window, the road continued to hum with life, but now Abe understood it just a little better. Abe drifted off to sleep, dreaming of crossings, curbs, and confident, careful steps. With a swirl of magic dust and a quiet glow, Infobug disappeared into the air.